Hey guys, thank you for joining us at All the Answers podcast, where we answer all your questions through the Akashic Records. We wanted to give you a little heads up. Our sound quality is not excellent in some of these first few episodes because we were pulled away from our studio when Corona happened. So the longer you stick around episodes 8 and 9, things will be in order and sound will be amazing. So we hope you stick around. Enjoy.
Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion through vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Consciousness is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, fascinating. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
Yeah, here we are doing it again.
Yo.
Please never make that sound with your face hole.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah. Get it.
How long has it been since we talked? I feel like it's been forever this time.
First I have to do this.
Pew, pew. And your dog has to attack you.
All that clapping noises we made to do the sound check makes
Drew
the dog freak out, and she comes over and has to sit on my shoulders.
That's understandable.
Okay.
You just peeked it out. Zoom freaks out.
Ooh, what if I change the Vuvuzela or whatever it's called and make it go
Vuvuzela? That's actually an air. I think we're actually making fun of an air horn, which is different than a vuvuzela. Let me mansplain. Let me mansplain mimic sounds to you.
You know what's funny? A lot of times when you say you're mansplaining, I don't feel mansplained.
You feel explained?
No, but you know what's funny is usually this has happened like 5 times. So this is hilarious and wonderful. And I'm so glad we're bringing it up. What will be happening inside of me is I'm going, why does he always have to talk over me? We are talking at the same fucking time and I want him to listen. And then you'll say, sorry if I'm mansplaining. And I'm like, nope. I didn't feel mansplained. I felt talked over. Like timing. The timing of talking was at the same time. And now you're like, I will never talk while you're talking.
I'm waiting until you're done speaking because I feel like, I'll be honest, I feel like the only way I can say anything at this podcast is if I interrupt you occasionally.
Oh.
Unless you directly ask me a question, which you often do.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, there is a part of me that goes like, I better start talking real fast and real quick because otherwise Cassidy's just going to fucking go. And so I think we're both experiencing a similar thing.
Yeah. Well, see, now I'm just going to be quiet the whole time. Well, I was quiet last time.
Yeah. And I don't want you to be quiet. I don't want you to like not speak. I think I just have a thing and it's good for me to look at it because I'm going like, I have this thing in general everywhere in my life where I go, I have a real thing about that where I'm like, you've heard me talk about this with Sam, the 3 of us in improv. So Cassidy and Sam Shaw, the inimitable Sam Shaw and I have an improv trio. And I talk about it a lot in there with regard to you two, because every time you two talk over each other, I get super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm just going to vanish. I can't be here. Men talking on each other. Bye. But here I'm like so aware that it's maybe going to happen that I like get on top of it real quick and make sure that it's like I'm compensating for it. Yeah. So then I've been looking at it a lot in myself and going like, well, what comes up for me around that? And what comes up for me is feeling like I have to like hurry in order to be heard. And like, you don't value my words unless I insist that I like thrust them forth in this kind of, I don't know what other word to use except like masculine kind of like paradigm way where I go like, I will be heard. And then I'm like, Oh, it's so much work to do that I'd rather like not have to do it. But the feeling that comes up is like, I don't matter, or you don't care about what I'm saying, and you'd rather be hearing yourself talk, and I'm just don't matter. That's what comes up for me.
Yeah. I mean, I have a totally different perception of what I see happening, but that is in no way has anything to do with the actual experience of what you're experiencing. It's just like I'm always surprised when you say that, because I always feel like my perception is that you, if it were a matter of like airtime, that like that I'm like, oh yeah, there's tons of Katie airtime. So I don't feel like I'm like forcing you out or not giving you space, but that is irrelevant to what is actually being perceived or what is being experienced.
Well, it's not irrelevant. It's your experience. We're talking about your experience is very relevant to me.
Yeah.
I care about your experience.
Thank you.
And I'm sharing mine, and we just have two different experiences of reality, and it's not irrelevant. Your experience is very relevant to me.
And I mean, it's so funny in the context of improv, and I think this is an appropriate discussion because it has to do with like how we communicate, that some improv, and we've learned this when we've been working together, when we stop and go, you speak and you finish, then I speak, then I finish, and we make great new discoveries about like, oh yeah, there's more to be mined. But then the other part is like, when you were perceiving me and Sam doing that, like that to me is also some of my favorite improv, is when I don't feel like we're talking over each other. I feel like we're riffing in the same vocal space. And that's super exciting when that happens.
Right. And look, I want to really let me be clear about this from my perspective. I'm naming this in large part to name my own issue. I have a thing, me, that's just my issue, which is like, in general, I have this thing about like, it comes up for me all the freaking time. I'm just like standing with a group of people, and a very normal thing that humans do is they talk at the same fucking time all the time. They're like, me too, and for me, because I'm a weirdo, or because of my trauma, or because of my dad, I don't really know why, I feel like nobody's actually hearing what anybody's actually saying when that's happening. And so then it's not a really deep or connected conversation. It's more a cacophony of, I'm going to talk, egos just flying at each other in a way where
it's a beauty pageant of ideas.
I can't like receive you and give you back the degree of like depth of communion with your soul that I'm trying to have when everybody's like, that movie and you and me, me, you, my work, job, wine, alcohol. And I'm like, what are we fucking doing here? I could be home sitting down if this is what we're doing. But it's very much it's particular to me, and I don't claim it as like I am functioning the right way and you are functioning the wrong way. I'm more just sort of saying like, I think it's just my preference as a personal individual. I want to be able to hear you and then have you hear me.
Well, and you're so not a weirdo in that. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this probably, but I've heard this so many, and it is a masculine feminine issue. I think it is. I think maybe that's why I say sorry for mansplaining, because in the back of my mind, what I'm perceiving, I'm not mansplaining, but I'm man commanding or something, like I'm commandeering.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe I'm perceiving that on a gut level, and so that I realize I'm doing something.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. I'm spitballing.
No, I love this. This is like, I can't think of a more satisfying thing than two human beings. Here's what I'm experiencing. And the other person goes, well, here's what I'm experiencing. And then we find our way to be like, oh, I see how I was misunderstanding. And then, oh, I see how I was misunderstanding. And we find each other again.
Yes.
That's what communication is for, I think.
Could we do that, please? Heard a really great news thing this morning.
Yes.
It's an NPR show. I want to say it's The Takeaway, but it's not. It's something else. But it was he was interviewing a guy from Michigan who had gone to the protest of Liberate Michigan because you locked us down and you shouldn't have locked us down and we should be able to.
Oh, I don't know about that. Tell us more about that.
So it was one of the first big protests against lockdown of corona, shelter in place stuff. And a lot of who these protests are aligned with is like, there were people showing up with fucking Nazi flags, and so it is political, right? And she's a Democratic governor who did this action and blah, blah, blah. This guy was very clearly saying, like, I don't think it's political. It wasn't for me. Here's my point of view. Here's what my struggle. And my point being, the interviewer was so good at not shaming him, going, wait a minute, I just want to be clear. Are you saying this? Okay. Do you know about this? And then he would bring up a kind of a counterpoint fact, but not in an argumentative way, to say like, with this information, does that change what you're saying? And it was really wonderful to listen to. And the guy was very calm, and he didn't name call, and the interviewee And then like the interviewer was like, I'm going to be talking to the governor tomorrow. And it was actually today, but because the next interview was with the governor. Is there anything you'd like her to know? And it was just it was refreshing to hear. And I was frustrated with the guy because he had some real logic fallacies of cause effect that were driving me batty, but they weren't coming from a goddamn liberals place. They were coming from a place of, I have a business and I have a life and I need to feed my family and this doesn't feel right. And I don't know. So point being, two people, I felt like that was a version of those two people, the interviewer and the interviewee, actually like hashing something out.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I love that. That's beautiful. And such a perfect example of, I think, of what we're talking about. As you're saying that, I was thinking too about like, there is a difference. Like I notice in myself, like when you and I and Sam are in rehearsal and that thing starts to happen, I like evaporate into the wallpaper and just don't feel like competing and getting in that pool of water. I just don't. But here, I think because it's like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I go, nah, nah, nah. I'm fucking owning this. Sit down. And I think I let myself get a little, I don't think, I 100% let myself get a little more Enneagram 8 about it. Cause I'm like, no, we will be doing the thing that this podcast is. So I will not be being spoken over. Like I get insistent. And it's interesting to look at it in myself and go, it's just interesting to look at. Like I guess what I'm sort of acknowledging is that I'm sort of patting myself on the back is what I'm doing. But I appreciate for myself that I can switch it on or off. And I know that I'm actively choosing in this context to like meet you there and bulldoze further because it's so important to me that this podcast do what it's doing. Whereas in improv, I'm willing to I just let my hands off of it entirely. And I'm not invested in what that becomes. To me, improv is like, it's going to be what it is. The moment is what, I don't know. They're doing a man thing now. That's fine. I'm over here. It's fine. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. You take more ownership of it.
I guess so.
It matters in a different way. And that's
in a different way.
And I do agree. Like, feel like what we're learning is not just that we're learning. I think we've known this from the beginning. No, this is Katie Rubin's podcast with Cassidy Brown chiming in and supporting ideas and helping to push it up. And I don't mean that in an ego way. I just mean that you're the main voice.
Well, I think the way I would want to frame it is something like whatever this thing that I'm calling God or spirit or whatever, like the universe, the fountain of light, whatever that is asking me quite clearly to do its bidding here in this context. And so I feel pretty responsible to make sure that happens. But that doesn't mean I have to like shut you up. Like you don't have to shut up just because I need this to occur. It's both. I just needed to name it so that you're not feeling squashed because there's no need for that.
I mean, I love it when we're able to go like you said, two people like, oh, that's where you're coming from. That's it. Okay, let me take that information. So when it comes to this, or when it comes to even, rehearsal and improv, when it was finally called out more directly, then it's still going to happen, but it's going to happen less. It's going to happen more consciously, or if it's happening, it's going to be happening because we're choosing it instead of just
unconsciously doing it.
Just going, nah, 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 ramity boop, boop, boop. Instead of being a creative choice.
It doesn't have to keep happening, but it can. Is that what you're saying?
You mean people talking over each other sometimes? Yeah, I insist that it keep happening occasionally because it's interesting rhythm.
For improv?
Yeah.
I got you. That's like a thing you like.
Yeah, it's riffing. It's energy.
To me, there's a way to riff, though, where you're not on top of each other. You can riff and not be on top of each other.
Okay, I hear you. And you can riff and be on top of each other and have it be an enjoyable experience.
I know for you, that's enjoyable for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not for me.
So literally, if two people are talking at the same time, it's never enjoyable.
No, that's too black and white. It's not that simple. Like humans do that. It happens and it's not painful when it's like sort of like a certain amount of it. But when there's a certain amount that you and Sam do that is incredibly uncomfortable and unfun for me. But in improv, I don't mind just kind of stepping out of that and going like, sure, do that now. That's what this scene is. That's what they're doing there. If I'm in it, I'm going to probably like pull out, or like if it's happening with me, I'm probably going to behave differently with it than you two would together, but that's fine because that's just a different dynamic. But yeah, you can't like, I'm not claiming we could like erase humans talking at the same time. Sometimes that's like, we can't do that.
That's actually what I was saying. I was saying we do it consciously and it's an active choice as opposed to just like we're doing it all the time bullshit.
You're saying that you two do that actively as a conscious choice?
Yes, if you, once it gets pointed out and we're more aware of it, it's not just a constant thing that is just happening as background babble.
I got you. But it matters enough to, like, I'm hearing you say that you value that enough and you enjoy that.
That I want to keep it on the menu.
Right. I hear that. I get you. And I get that that's something you're committed to. I'm pretty committed to like not being a part of that when it happens, but that's okay.
It is okay. It saddens me that there will be choices that we would make where someone, and it's happened with Sam for sure, or with me as well. Like when two people are doing a type of scene that I just don't feel good about or whatever, it's not my jam, then I pull out, and I don't like it. I don't like pulling out because I feel like that means I'm not staying present. And so now this is me reflecting, realizing this is the experience you're having. So then like, and it's not an enjoyable thing to pull out, but I also am I feel like I'm disappointed in myself when I react that way, when I go, oh, they're doing that kind of scene. I don't want to do that kind of scene. And then I pull out.
Why are you disappointed in yourself?
Because I want to stay present to all the awesome possibilities in improv. And that reminds me of the idea of feeling our feelings. Like, you know, the best teachers tell you like, oh, what's the feeling that just came up in that scene?
Yeah.
Follow that. Don't take it out. Don't leave the scene with it. Like, that feeling is part of the scene. How about we bring that forward?
Right.
Like,
And that's what I choose to do sometimes, except that the amount of energy it takes for me to do that is exhausting and unfun for me. So what I have to do is go like, I have to yell, literally yell at the top of my lungs. You guys are talking at the same time in the scene as the character in order to get heard. And I've done it many times. And that is so boring and not fun and exhausting that I'd rather like find a background thing to do or dig a ditch or pretend to be a lady washing windows or leave the scene. It's okay with me to make a different choice. I don't see it as I'm failing myself by quote unquote checking out. It's not that simple. It's more like, okay, those guys are doing that now. So I'm going to find a different thing I can do because I'm not willing to have to like bulldoze my fucking energy field into this train that's riding really fast. I just don't want to. And I don't feel disappointed in myself or even that frustrated with you guys now that we've talked about it. Now I'm like, cool, I'm just going to like dig a ditch or like, you know what else? I know there's another scene coming right after this one. And I'm going to like, I'll start it or I'll do some other energy in it or I'll be, you know what I mean? So like, I'm not tripping on if it happens since we're, like you said, since we're aware it's happening now. I think too, that was a part of it for me is like, I needed to name it in improv to realize that just so that I could be like, hey guys, I need you to know this is how this lands for me. Now you can make your grown-up choices about if you're willing to do that and know how it lands for me. And I'm going to make my grown-up choices about like how much I'm going to like fall, quote unquote, victim to letting it land. I'm not going to be like, wah, you know, but at the same time, I'm not going to pretend it's not irritating. So I'm going to find a workaround without blaming you guys or making you wrong. But if I didn't name it, that would be dishonoring of me. That would be me dishonoring me.
That brings up how I actually have so much admiration for anybody who can go, here's the thing that is making me unhappy in this situation or whatever, naming it and realizing like how rarely I will do that for myself in any context at all, improv, life, and that the work that we've been doing it's so absolutely relevant that that's leading me towards being able to do that more often without it being loaded with the frustration or it's doing it in a way that doesn't carry the weight of the own personal disappointment or the personal apology or the guilt of naming something, because that actually I think is where the more toxic, when people hear criticism or what might be perceived as criticism, I think usually it's harder to hear for them if it's tinged with like this sort of all the other shit, instead of just like, hey, this is a thing that I feel when this happens.
Right. I think the tinged thing is what we each have to deal with on our own individual. That's our own stuff.
That's the conversation around, processing our challenges, our lessons. It's trite to say, but it's so true. Like every time we run into one of those things, you just said it earlier, when that happens, you look at yourself and you go, why am I reacting this way? What is it that's making me react this way?
What is the fear underneath, and what is the belief, the limiting belief, and what is the need? I was talking about this with my healing class this last week. We were talking about the difference between a fear, a real need, and a belief. Those are like three very distinct things that can come up underneath things. So in other words, when you talk about the to me, that's encompassing all three of those things, And so it's like people, in order to have, I was marveling I think in therapy or maybe with a friend, I can't remember, about how human beings ever are able to relate to each other ever. Like how we're talking at all is a miracle, because until you could tease apart, am I functioning from a fear, a belief, or a need, a real need for something, a real human need, you can't know anything. And yet the majority of humans have no idea where they're coming from in any given moment. No fucking clue.
Nope.
So how the fuck is society at all a thing?
And then add to that, like, how words utterly fail us much of the time to encapsulate what we actually are trying to say. I mean, linguistically, words are metaphors anyway. That's all they are. They're a stand-in for a concept. And there's different languages, and then there's tone, and there's all the bullshit. But shit, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you were saying like the not to mention, wait, I said society. How is there a society at all? And you said, and not to mention, words are a problem.
They fail us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll take, we'll be teasing out an idea, and we'll go down a path, possibly even of argument. Like, no, it's this, no, it's this, no, it's this, no, it's this. But if you walk back to the very beginning, you realize, oh, it's just that we think a cow is a different thing.
Right. That's like right.
You meant calf. I heard cow. That's it.
Like, okay, this is so good. I had a conversation with a person I'm close with. Let's just say that.
Okay, boning.
We'll put a pin in that little distinction for just a moment. And oh God, this is so complicated. The shortest way to explain it, I think, is we have a history, and there's this great tension between us on this one topic. You know, when you have that one friend where you have that, whenever we talk about Cheetos, it gets tense.
Yep.
Right?
Pronouns.
Exactly. So we have this history around this topic, okay? I was attempting to articulate a thing about a word he used to describe me while we happened to be in the topic that makes us tense. So I wasn't actually talking about the topic. I was talking about the word he used to describe me during a conversation within the topic. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get to where he knew what I was even saying, like that he knew, I was just like, I didn't like it when you called me blah, blah, blah. Not anything to do with the topic. Like, let's say the topic was religion, which it wasn't, but let's say it was. I was like, when we had that conversation about religion and you said that you experienced me as scared, I need to be clear. I wasn't scared. I was just trying to get clear on the word scared. But even just because it was near the religion topic, it was just near it. The tension in the room was like, ga-ga, 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 like a throbbing heart, because of all the muscle memory he and I have of like how uncomfortable that topic is. So, but it took us, no joke, half an hour to get to where I was like, actually, no, all I'm saying is the word scared. Oh, and he was like, oh, this isn't about the thing? I go, no, it's not about the thing. It's just about the word scared, that you called me scared. And I felt like I was mad, not scared. That's all. And he was like, oh, cool. I got that. That makes sense. But we took us because of what you're saying, that language is so impossibly inadequate.
We did it a little bit a few minutes ago when we were talking about when it got a little like, I got a little frustrated about like, but I want to have that thing in the scenes sometimes. And I felt like we actually realized that we weren't arguing. That happens so often. When you're arguing, then you realize you're not arguing. You're like saying the same thing, but you've spent 20 minutes kind of getting a little testy with each other, defining a thing, and then going, oh, no, that's what I think too. Oh, you used it used a different word.
Because language. I know.
And I only really speak English, unfortunately. I'm embarrassed to say. So, like, why is that relevant? I don't know.
I speak Mandarin.
No, you don't.
And German.
I'm calling you out.
And Swedish. Is that a language? And
Swedish is. I can say things in Swedish. So, Katie, how would you say thank you for the party?
Spiken taken to the party.
Real close.
Did I get it?
Would you like me to just say yes, even though it's
no?
Not at
I
all?
Want to hear the truth.
Tack för fest.
Oh, I love the accent. Let's do it again.
Tack för fest.
Oh man, your face even changes when you do that. Oh my God. Well, we have some questions that
we have a
want
ton of questions.
Answers to. I guess we could do that or whatever.
So Katie texted me yesterday, texted me and Desmond and said, hey, how about we take on, and before I say what Katie said, I'm going to tell you what I was thinking in my brain earlier that morning. It'd be crazy if we just like tried to do like a power session where we just hit all the answers for all the questions that came up this week. And then like, as I finished having this thought, I get a text, bleak, bleak. You guys, what do you think about the idea of just doing all 10 questions just in one episode, just going? And I was just like, get out of my head, Katie Rubin.
Good. It's
so
good.
That is the challenge we have set before Katie and the record keepers for the day.
Sure seemed like a good idea before. Now I'm like, oh boy. But on that point of what you were saying about get out of my head, now this is going to ease us into, I do have the questions. They're right here.
Great.
This is going to ease us into what we're doing. I would argue, or I hate that word so much. I would offer that I was in your head. In other words, I heard you thinking that.
Yeah.
And then this happens to me maybe 15 times a day. No joke. Where I go, oh, I wonder how Eric is doing. And then he texts me a millisecond later. And it's what I discovered when I was in Sufi school is that Katie Rubin is not actually wondering anything. What's happening is Eric is wondering something and he is wondering it about me, and we are connected enough that I perceive his wondering moving through me. But because it's the energy of wonder, I experience it as my own because it's moving through me. Now, the only reason I know for myself that this is true is because, again, of how often this happens. And because there was a day, maybe I've told the story in here, tell me if I'm repeating myself, but there was a day when I was in Sufi healing school where the day before this day, this never happened, or maybe happened like once every few months. And then on this one day, it changed to where it started happening all the time. And the story is that I feel like I might have told you this already. Forgive me you'll stop me if I'm repeating myself. I was dating someone in LA, and so Sufi school was such that we would go for a full week up to this hill in St. Helena, NorCal, and go away for 3 months. And then you would come back for a week and go away for 3 months. Okay. And the week was like super intense. And between the weeks, there would be all this homework and you'd be like evolving spiritually and like crazy shit would go down. So I was in a 3-month period between healing school sessions, dating a guy in LA, living technically in LA, but I had come up to Sacramento to do a play. So I'm in actor housing in Sacramento and I'm dating the guy in LA. He's in LA. I'm driving in my car. And I'm in the midst of a lot of inner transformation through the healing school work. And I suddenly hear my boyfriend having a conversation with a woman I don't recognize. I hear it in my head to such great detail. And in his voice, because, everybody has their own like cadence and their own rhythm. And it's clearly him. Let's call him Frank. His name was not Frank. So I'm hearing Frank in my head talking to an unknown woman about me. And he is so distinctly talking that it is so surreal that I pull my car over. I'm driving at the time. I get a sheet of paper out and I start to write down what I'm hearing because I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh my
And I
God.
write down, like, I think I have to tell her that this has gone as far for me as it can go. And the woman goes, and how does that make you feel? And they're talking back. He's gonna break up with me. And he's telling this woman who I realize as I'm taking notes on the dictation, it's his therapist. And he's in
Yeah.
therapy right now. And I'm hearing the conversation. So I think I'm probably insane or making that up. It can't be real, right? But I'm like, I'll just write it down because this is cool. Maybe it is real. I don't know. And then I'm like also sad because I guess this dude's gonna break up with me. Hours go by. I get back in my car, drive the car, or I didn't get out of the car, but you know what I mean. I start driving again, drive back to actor housing, running my lines. Hours go by, and he's not texting me. And we were very texty, text, text, text. No text from him. So I'm like, huh, that's weird that he's not texting me. So nighttime comes and it's like way past when he would have texted me by now. So I send him a text and I say, "Hey, how was your day?" Or something innocuous. And he's like, good." Like real short. And I go, "Anything notable happen?" And he's like, "Nope." And I go, "Did you have therapy today?" He goes, "Yeah, how did you know?" And I go, "Oh, I was just curious because this guy was like not someone I could say this shit to."
You didn't text him with, well, because I heard every word.
Ooh. I mean, you imagine how weird this is for me when this is happening? It was so fucking weird. Okay, so then I say, "Do you have therapy today?" He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I go, "Oh, I was just curious," lying. And he goes, I go, "How was it?" He's like, "It's fine." I go, "Anything in particular come up that was maybe difficult?" And he's like, "Well, it's therapy, so yeah." And so we spend like 20 minutes where I'm like, I'm going to ask whatever questions I can ask to get him to fucking get to the point. Because I'm a person who it's like, let's rip the fucking Band-Aid off. You're going to rip the Band-Aid off? Rip it off my eyeball so I don't have to slowly peel the pain Band-Aid off my eye because that's going to hurt. Finally, I ask him enough gentle, vague questions so as not to give myself away. And he says, "Well, okay, to be honest, we did have a conversation where I was bringing up to her how I've been feeling about this, and this about our dynamic and how I kind of feel like this isn't really a match for me." And we were like a bunch of months in. So it was like a bummer. And I said, "Okay, I totally hear you. And that does feel like an impasse. And I don't think that's going to change. And I don't, so we fucking broke up right then and there on the telephone. Dunzo." And I was devastated for a while.
That is one of my sort of nightmares. Not your end of it, his end of it.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Like there are times when I'll be just whatever.
That's a nightmare.
I'm not going to be too explicit because they're such awful thoughts. But if you're ever like going around and you're like, what's the worst thought I could have right now? Like punch that baby or something. And of course I don't want to punch the baby. I have no desire to punch a baby. But then I get the image of like punching that baby in the face. Like, and that really strong image comes into my head because I'm processing that is the worst idea I could have. But then I have this thought of like, maybe I'm hanging out with you, or maybe I'm hanging out with someone who I just know to be perceptive.
Right.
In general. Like, are they going to turn to me and go, what the fuck? Are you punching a baby in your head? Like, I think that sometimes, and I get really self-conscious about even my own thoughts. Like, I want to apologize for the dumb thoughts that go through my head.
Oh, man. I really understand. I hear you. I wouldn't want to be him in that situation. Thank God I didn't just say like...
Or like you're watching porn and like somebody's seeing through your eyes.
100%. 100%. 100%. I mean, some of the shit... speaking of porn, do you guys... when you look at porn...
I may or may not answer this question. I'm a pretty open book, and these are go ahead.
It's a spiritual podcast. Now, Desmond gets immediately on the computer and he's
on
looking at
his
porn.
laptop. It's always running.
When you look at porn, here's what I do. I'll put it like this. When I look at porn, I immediately erase my history in my computer, like right when I'm done.
Oh yeah. I use incognito mode.
Okay,
You don't know about incognito mode.
Listen, I just learned incognito mode like 2 weeks ago.
Very important.
For other reasons. I didn't even know it existed.
Also, just in case, Katie, you have a little thing, get a little cover for your camera.
Oh.
That you can slide over your camera very easily. Just in case someone hacks in and is watching you fap it. Unless you don't mind that, in which case that's fine.
Say again the verb.
Fap.
Fap it. Okay.
F-A-P. It being your stuff, your bits.
Is that onomatopoeia?
I don't know. That's internet speak. People use fap as like, that's the sort of meme word that people use when they're referring to masturbation.
Because wouldn't that be...
It's what the kids say.
I feel you. But wouldn't that be what the dude word version of it? Because fap for a dude makes sense.
Right. But they use it now. It's sort of used generally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like... If you do it that way. I don't know. Is that how you do it?
You mean, do I slap my vagina?
With 2 fingers?
With 2 fingers.
This is... Yeah.
Listen, sometimes... people like to get it slapped. They do. I know.
Right, but only by request. I would never lead with that.
Gotta have consent.
Yeah.
I'm not a big slap my vagina.
Okay.
But I know some people who... Listen, one of my exes told me, I have a thing. Okay, how do we do this?
Woo, I don't know. Do we do it?
We're going to do it.
All right.
I have a thing where I'm, as you can imagine, quite sensitive. So like if you think a thought near my vagina, it has a feeling. Yeah. You could just blow wind in a gentle way about a mile away. And it's like, what's happening? Yeah. So you don't have to like get all slappy with it. So one time, my point in saying
my mom listens to this podcast.
I'm excited. She's a grown-ass lady. She can handle it.
She was on this.
She was here, remember? We were sort of new to each other at the time, and I was explaining myself to him. Hey, I'm quite sensitive. You don't have to, you don't have, oh my God, the dog wants attention bad. I was like, you don't have to drive a freight train through it. You can just gently, whatever. And we had a good talk and it was great. And he learned the things that I needed to say about my particular body. And then he was like, I got to tell you, this is funny. Women are so different because my ex, my most recent, or one of his exes, she needed you to jackhammer the whole situation, like pound inside and fucking pound outside, like slap it and fuck it at the same time, to get anywhere near orgasm. And I was like, wow, I am different than that. And so then we learned.
Once again, an illustration of just how crazy it is that we can manage to relate at all.
Right? And you know how much empathy I have for men? Like men, I was listening to Dax Shepard.
We are simpler when it comes to what you can do to us versus what we can do to you, I would say.
I'm just saying like how complex it is for a dude to learn each individual lady that you deal with. Like, and then you walk into a situation and you're like, I think I know what vaginas do, but you're a different one. How does yours work? It's like if you had to do car machine, what's that called when you're a mechanic?
I'm going to let you struggle.
It's like if in order for us to communicate, you have to like build my car engine by hand. And it's a different model.
Custom build.
Anyway, do you find that it's that different per person, or is that just my
Oh, yeah. You got to start from the beginning with every new partner. And then not to mention variance within the same partner, like this week. And it's true for me. I don't want to make it just so black and white because it really isn't. Like there are times when I'll be like, no, it seems like what you're doing there is exactly what I asked for. And nope. I actually need the opposite now. Right. And like, I don't think it's as black and white. Penis havers and vagina havers. Yeah. There's a little more complexity to the vagina havers, but the penis havers, we're inconsistent. We're wildly inconsistent, both emotionally and physically as well.
Man, but not as much as, don't you think? Not as much. I mean, I have spent some time with some penis havers, and I'll tell you.
And they're pretty... The average is pretty.
I mean, I learned how to work that thing early on, and I'm good. People are pleased.
And you have a pretty consistent technique, is what you're telling me.
It's more like, here's the truth. It's more like if you tune in energetically, like truly to what's happening for the person, you get it. Desmond is nodding.
Right.
He gets it. The only formulaic aspect to it for me is like just be with that person.
Right.
Really merge with them and feel in your mouth what their body is asking for, and you will make people happy because you're present to what's occurring in the room.
Yes.
But I think people try to make it a formula in some mental way where it's like you do this with your mouth and then you do that with your hand. I read this technique
book and
yeah, exactly. The technique is just be there and do what you would want to have done if you were them. I have often had this thought. I wonder if, you know how it's a thing where a lot of women don't like to give head? You know how that's like a thing in the world?
No, I've never experienced that ever. I've read that.
I read that. I heard about it like in a newspaper. I wonder because I have so much masculine energy, and I think in many past lives I've been so many dudes. I've been a dude so many times. I wonder if that's part of it, is that like, I have no problem imagining what it would feel like to get a blowjob. Like, I feel like I'm 100% sure I know what it would feel like. So I know what I would want. So I just try to be with that and do some of that. And I'm wondering if women, like if certain women maybe like who have less masculine energy or maybe have not been dudes as many times in past lives, maybe they just literally don't identify. Maybe they're like, I don't know what a fucking dick wants, and dicks are gross and dirty. Like, I don't know. Is that part of why maybe, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I can't theorize. It's such a, I can spitball, but ew, bad word to use right there.
Did this topic make everybody uncomfortable?
Check yourself. Now, if that made you feel uncomfortable, I want you to sit with that and decide, like, what is it that you're feeling uncomfortable about?
What's coming up for
What's the source of that trauma, possibly? And it might be hard. And I'm saying that slightly mockingly, and I actually mean it.
Are you hard right now?
I'm not.
What I meant was...
I am not tumescent, which is the 50-cent word you promised you'd get a T-shirt made with.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should listen to our episodes. They remind you of things.
I don't want to
They're
do
pretty
that.
good.
Like, I'm so never going to do that. I'm glad you're not tumescent. But I was actually asking you and Desmond, is it making you guys uncomfortable that I'm exploring this?
Oh, I miss again, words fail. No.
Cool.
Desmond?
I just have to mention, I feel similar to Katie in the opposite respect. Like, I feel like I have very many females in my in my personal soul tree, and I'm just like, yeah, this makes sense. and a big part of it is tuning in, kind of the same way. Like, you can see by the look on their face and the sounds they're making, and the, whether they're cringing or relaxing, and just let them sheepdog you.
Sheepdog, yes.
Sheepdogging in bed.
For sure.
Title of this podcast today.
Sheepdogging in bed. Speaking of dogs, my dog is looking at me like, you guys, weird shit is going on. Do you need my support? Yeah, we're talking about sex. It's okay, please. All right, so I have the Facebook entries of all the deep spiritual questions people have for us.
Whose records do we open?
Well, here's how we'll do it. That's a great question. And this is what's fun about records in general. What I'm going to do is ask the record keepers, Jesus God, to open a set. You can open the records of a group. So I'm going to say, please open the records of the group of people on this train right here that I'm looking at. And now the question I'm sitting with for myself, that's how we'll do it. Because what I did was I lumped all the names together in a response to everybody. So I have all the names right in one place. What I'm wondering is, can we use their names when I ask the questions? You know what I'm saying? So if I go, okay, now we're on to Jenny's question. Jenny wants to know.
I'd say you use their names. And are you asking the record, or are you asking for the podcast's sake?
I'm asking just for privacy purposes, like.
We'll beep it.
Oh, good call. Okay. That's great. Okay, great. That solves it. By the way, I'm really happy, Cassidy, Jamal, Jackson, Malcolm, Jamal, Warner Brown, that we had that conversation, because I'm going to be more conscious of not bulldozing you when we're in here, while simultaneously remaining committed to the mission I'm just really glad we talked about it so I can
Thank
be
you.
more aware of it. I love you.
Me too. I appreciate it.
I just want to tell you from an engineer standpoint, now that you guys are both recording locally, you can all just talk constantly at the same time, and I can split it up and make a great conversation out of it.
So Cassidy wins.
Yes, the man, the straight white man wins again.
Thank God.
Yes.
He was having a difficult moment, the straight white man, for just a second. Thank God he's back on top. He's back on top. Catherine Hepburn says. All right. Here we go. Son of a bitch. Doing the things. I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. I love this idea. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I trust. Here we go. All right. So let's go ahead and open the records. Here we go. There's a goddamn fly in here now. And I'm like, do I murder the fly or do I just let him buzz around?
Thich Nhat Hanh says, brush twice, then slap. That's for mosquitoes.
Brush twice, then slap?
So you go, okay, go away. And then he comes back and you go, okay, go away. And then he comes back and you're like, all right, now you got to die.
I see. All right. So let's take a couple deep breaths into the low belly. Okay. Let's see. So I'm just going to listen to how they want. Do we need to do that? Do we need to do that? No. Okay. So I think I'm just going to pop right into opening the records through the prayer. If you guys are okay with it, I'm not going to do the grounding thing. Allah, I don't think we need to. Okay, so we'll take I'm just going to follow now. Okay, so we're going to take a couple deep breaths. We're going to continue to breathe into the low belly. Good. Yes, good. And then we'll feel the bottoms of each foot. And let's just have the conscious awareness of the electromagnetic field of your body communing now with the electromagnetic field of the earth below us. So it's like it's vibing and vibrating and you're vibrating and they're vibrating together and they're communicating with one another energetically. And we'll see the bottoms of each foot opening like a chakra or a window. So there's a plane of energy or an open window of space between the bottom of your foot, each foot, and the earth. Ya Shafi al-Alim al-Qudus al-Salam al-Razak al-Aziz. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and call in the energies now. I feel like I should give people a little understanding. I've had a bunch of healing work myself with some very high level wizard people in the last couple of weeks that make it different for me now, what's happening in what's required and not required anymore. So it's kind of cool for me to be like, oh, wow, we don't even have to do that now. We could just go, shoop, shoop, shoop. Allah. So for Cassidy, and I'm just looking, do we need to, okay. And so let's just become aware now of the midline of the body from the base of the spine through the low belly into the upper belly, solar plexus, heart, upper chest, throat, center of your head, Allah, and top of your head. So we're just kind of becoming aware of or connected to our chakras now. Yes, good. Now, visualize, imagine, or allow, if you're listening, each chakra, which is just like a sphere of energy or a ball of white light. Each chakra, one at the root, the base of the spine, one at the low belly, one at the solar plexus, one in the heart center, one in the center of the throat, one in the center of the head or the third eye, and one at the top of the head, the crown. Imagine those little spheres of white light expanding instantaneously now in every direction. So they each become a big, huge sphere of white light, making your energy field one big, expanded, open, yes, field of white light. Okay, and so by the power of divine light within us all, come Holy Spirit, Spirit of light, Spirit of truth. Allah, for the highest good of all throughout time, fill our hearts with divine love as I humbly ask permission to open the divine portal to the highest realm of the Akashic records for everyone on the Facebook post who asked questions for today. They're like, yeah, we know who you mean. We're good. Okay. Akashic beings of light, guide everyone on the Facebook post who asked questions today. Wow. to the deepest truth of their being, releasing any blocks and restrictions to their abundance and highest good. Lords of the Akashic Records, assist everyone on the Facebook post who asked questions for today to fully embody their soul's light, to fulfill their soul's purposes, and to heal any accumulated karma. Surround everyone on the Facebook post who asked the question for today with the enlightenment and wisdom of their masters, teachers, and loved ones. Ya Shafi, Al-Alim, Al-Qudus, Salam, Al-Razak, Al-Aziz. This is my system lining up with the energy fields of each of these people's souls and beings and stuff. Clearly direct everyone on the Facebook post who asked the question today's perspective and actions to those that manifest her divine plan or his divine plan. I'm going to go quiet for just a moment. Allah. Okay. Free of all resistance, judgment, and fear, everyone who posted on my Facebook wall with a question for today is now filled with divine love, and all the records are open. The records of that group are open. And I'm asking the divine to really line my energy field up and my perceptive abilities through the midline of my body, my spirit, my being, my soul, all of my consciousness across all time, dimension, space, reality. Line that up, please, with this group of people who have asked questions for today, and they've asked with great sincerity. And so I'm asking with sincerity for clarity for them, insight, wisdom, and healing. I'm going to make a special request here of the divine mother, father, all that is, that we move a little quickly because we've got a lot to get through. So if you can make any of the information and the healing energy quick and dirty, that'd be great. All right, so I'm going to start with the questions now, you guys, on the Facebook wall at the top. I'll just go in order as I see them. So I'm going to start saying people's names. So asks, all the signs point to, quote, feel your emotions in order to align, heal, and live to one's fullest potential. So I get the removing obstacles by meditating and allowing emotions to arise part. But once there, I'm missing the action piece. What does the bridge between the felt sense of emotion and clear, decisive action look and feel like? This is all in the context of me speaking my truth and showing up in every moment and relationship with clarity and transparency and vulnerability. And there's 3 little thumbs up likes on that one. So I feel like that one resonates for a lot of people. Okay, so here's what's coming through. So part of this, what's going to make you feel safer to begin practicing this is, so removing obstacle emotion. I'm just getting real clear on the question. Once there, I'm missing the action piece. What does the bridge between the felt sense of emotion and clear, decisive action look and feel like? I think I'm hearing you ask, like, how do I know what to do and when? When I'm busy, when I'm working on clearing obstacles, how do I, so I get how to drop into it, feel it, it clears. Now with a bridge between the felt sense of emotion and clear, decisive action, context me speaking my truth and showing up in every moment, every relationship, clarity, transparency, and I see. Okay, number 1 is speaking, you're looking to speak your truth and show up in every moment, in every relational dynamic with clarity, transparency, and vulnerability. One great tool for you is to name things accurately in the moment. For example, what you would say might be something along the lines of, right now, I feel attacked. You said that sentence and I feel attacked. I realize I need to sit with that in order to see, like, is that my stuff? Or is that have you actually attacked me? And the second piece is to ask questions. This refers, interestingly, back to what Cassidy and Katie, what we were talking about earlier, is to ask questions. So for example, you're in a moment with someone in a relationship and you're having a feeling. Let's say, oh gosh, there's many pieces to this. Let's say you've worked on this feeling before in your meditation and you've watched it dissolve and kind of integrate and become clarity for yourself. So now you're in a relational moment where you're like, yeah, that's that thing I touched in on in my spiritual work. I know now what is true for me about that. That's when you speak truth. That's when you say, what's true for me in this moment is X. And you leave room for the other person to say, ah, got you. Just like Cassidy and Katie were modeling earlier. That is not what I was experiencing. Here's what I was experiencing. And then you must be willing to ask questions in order to get your needs met. So there's the stating of what's true for you, and then there's the asking. Would you be willing to, is it okay if could we find a way to together? What if you did blah and I did blee? So number one is owning what's true for you emotionally in the moment and naming it correctly. I'm either having a feeling, a fear, a need, or a belief come up. I'm going to own it and name it and get clear for myself first. Then number two is asking questions rather than there's oftentimes a way that when we have been overly silent as human beings in our lives and pulled back and not speaking up like a 9 on the Enneagram might, we can, once we start to speak up for ourselves, overcompensate and believe that the next indicated action is to say everything. The way forward is to be like, I'm feeling this and you're doing that and I'm sad now, and everything gets articulated in a little bit of a messy way. Instead, what's more useful is to get clear on your part in it. What is actually happening for you? And then asking questions rather than attacking, blaming, shaming, judging, or running away. So I feel afraid right now because I believe that what you just said means that you don't love me. Or I feel sad right now because I believe that what you just said means you're judging me. And then you might say, are you judging me? Or are you having a different experience? And if so, what is that experience? Could you please explain to me where you're coming from now? And that's just what we mirrored earlier, or what we modeled, which is very funny. I didn't remember this question. All right, record keepers. Is there more? No, not for now. That's it for that one. Thank you for the question. Sorry, there's one more piece, which is the pressure you feel to be decisive, the decisive action piece. There's something a little not loving of you in that. There's a sort of like a masculine projection on top of that, where it's like, well, I got to be decisive. And it's like, sometimes a 9 Enneagram person is not a very decisive person. You've got to have mercy for yourself and be willing to say things like, I'm not sure right now. I want to give you an answer, or I want to make a choice, but I don't have an answer yet. And then it's tuning into your emotions again, always over and over, and going, well, what seems to be the truest thing? And remember that the truest thing, the yes for you, it may not always feel like a big, shiny, obvious, pow, it's a yes. It may be like, yeah, kind of more of that than that. It may be like, yes. And you need time to sit with your emotional wave. I think you have the emotional wave on the human design. In the human design language, if you look at how you make decisions, I would put money on you probably have the emotional wave, which means you'll get a big yes on something, and then it'll flip on you and turn into a big no. And then like 2 days later, it'll find its way gently leaning one direction or another towards a more of a no, more of a yes. But it's never going to be like quick, fast gut instinct, yes, no. For you. That's not how you make decisions. There's nothing wrong with you because of that. That's just not how your system works. Okay, out of time awareness, I'm going to go to the next one. Namaste. Thank you, God, for that. Thank you for the insight for the record keepers. Thank you. Okay, record keepers, new name coming up. Asks, she says, this is fun. I agree. Thank you. Would love to know how to keep the pesky, inflated ego in check so as to let the heart and soul navigate the journey. That's it. Winky face. Thank you. Okay. Lords, masters, and teachers of the records for or just like for this group, what would you have me say for her on this? How to keep the pesky, inflated ego in check so as to let the heart and soul navigate. All right. First of all, there's a piece about you're still learning. What does it feel like to function from my heart and soul? What kinds of choices do my heart and soul tend to make? You're feeling that out right now. You're in a period of discovery wherein the hardness, the hard inner feeling of what it is to function from the ego. But in your case, it's more like function from fear and from a need to fit in, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and being afraid, feeling like, oh God, if I don't, then this happens and that happens, and then they won't like me, and then I won't get jobs, and then all of that. If I don't do this behavioral thing, then they won't understand me, and I'll be on the outs and I'll be alone, or whatever all that fear is. that has a feeling inside of your body that is tight and constricted. Now, when you're functioning from the soul and or the heart, and they're saying when you're functioning from the heart, there's a more expansive, loving feeling that takes into consideration your needs and the needs of the other person or people, your needs and the society. The heart is a machine of and. The heart is a unifier. It's how the spirit speaks to the body and speaks to the human person. Because the heart is designed to bring together. The heart is designed to say, Cassidy's feelings are just as important as Katie's. And so they navigate their conversation through the heart. If they were to just stay in their heads, they'd be in trouble, because then the mind likes to separate ideas. Well, I'm right and you're wrong, and here's this, and tease this out, and me right, and here's the details. But the heart says, I love you, my brother. I want to find a way that you don't get trampled on and I don't get trampled on. I love you. So when you're coming from the energy of love and unity and a true desire to have everybody's needs get met. And now remember, we're talking about needs, not the wants of the injured ego. That's different stuff. But when you're coming from the actual desire for everyone to be heard and cared for, that is a heart movement. So you ask, how do we keep the ego in check so as to let the heart navigate? The heart is navigating when you're functioning in that way. There's much more to say on this, but for time, we'll put that there. The soul is a whole nother thing. So how do we keep the inflated ego in check so as to let the soul navigate the journey? Well, the soul functions from, this is interesting because they just pulled me right up into my 8th chakra. And for people's information, the 8th chakra is above the head. It's out of the body, sort of ish, but it's connected to the body. And it's the chakra that helps us really tap into the soul. Okay, I'm just going to channel this straight now. The soul functions on principles, spiritual principles. So if you want to know, am I functioning from my soul? Ask yourself, am I functioning from unity consciousness? Am I functioning from honoring the heart of the individual I am and the heart of the individual in front of me? Am I functioning from be of service to others? Am I functioning from what's in the greatest good? Or am I functioning from, so those are soul type principles. Oneness, the soul serves oneness. The soul serves communion. The soul, actually, to be real, serves God, whatever God means to you. It serves the fountain of light that creates all things. Whew. So the soul is the part of you that comes to incarnate in the human form so as to, it is very determined to learn, to grow in each lifetime toward the possibility of transcending duality. The soul is always trying to transcend duality and learn its lessons and kind of be done with human life on earth. It's looking to finish the lessons, learn all the things, elevate. That's the word. It's looking to elevate. So if you're functioning from the small self, I, you're saying, what do I get out of this? Where's mine in this? Me. Probably not the soul. But if you're functioning from what's going to work for me, honor my needs, and serve the greatest good, now you're functioning from the soul. Another way for you is to practice tapping into your 8th chakra, frankly, energetically sit there in meditation, in your connecting with the 8th chakra, just by asking to be given that opportunity and experience. And that will show you in your body the feeling of what it feels like to be in alignment with the soul. And lastly, we'll say, when you say keep the inflated ego in check, a more productive, active way for you, sister, that's what they say, to do this is don't worry about putting any egos in check. It's almost like putting a kid in a box. You're like, you're a bad little kid, ego. Sit in the box and think about what you've done. And we're going to lock the box with a padlock while you're in there, and it's going to be hot. When you try to shut your ego down, the ego comes back louder and stronger every time. Have you noticed? If you say to yourself, you can never have ice cream, your ego goes, oh, I need some fucking ice cream right now. If instead you say, what would my soul like me to eat? Tofu and vegetables with a little bit of dark chocolate that has a little sea salt in it. That is a soul meal guided by soul choices. So it's not kill the ego because you can't. It's integrate the ego in with the soul. Use the ego to drive you to making soul choices. Make it an active, positive process rather than a that part of me is bad. Put it in the box. Okay. They're like, you're done now. Talk about the next thing. Cassidy Jamal Jackson, Malcolm Jamal Warner Brown. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm noticing that there's some questions that are doubled or were addressed, like how can I create a more conscious connection with my soul? I think you already answered that.
Yeah. We'll see that as we go.
Yeah, there's a couple in there that you'll read through, and I'm
Okay.
enjoying that. The sort of interplay of the questions are already interplayed in your answers.
Oh, I see. That's
Yeah.
cool. I also wonder if once we get there, they may have different things to say because it's a different person. I wonder. I don't really know. Good awareness. Okay, I'm trying to zip through these. I hope it's not too boring for anybody, but here we go. Did you have any questions, Cassidy?
No, I'm loving it.
You're good? Okay. All right. Asks, the podcast is so good. End of question. Just kidding.
Her question's in the next comment.
I know. I'm just going to read this part. Love that episode 6 keeps playing when I open my podcast. I must need to hear it again. Next question. Next thingy. When I feel like I need to make a decision and practice presence, grounded, energy clearing, etc. Oh boy, those are different things. And the answer isn't coming. I see. No momentum to help. How do I know if I should decide, or do I keep taking the next indicated step and wait, knowing the answer will come? Decide. Okay, I feel like I need to make a decision, and the answer isn't coming. No momentum to help. I'm not sure I know what that means. How do I know if I should decide, or do I keep taking the next indicated step and wait, knowing the answer would come? I mean, the first thing that comes for me is they say, always just keep taking the next indicated step and wait, knowing the answer will come. That's always good human life wisdom. Now, let me tap into what I think she means. I need to make a decision, and the answer isn't coming. There's something up with that idea. Should we talk about that? No. Did we answer it? Yes. How do I know if I should decide, or I think you keep taking the next indicated action and know that the answer will come. The answer you're looking for is something along the lines of awarenesses that will arise after you take the next indicated step. Yeah. So it's that thing of leap and the net will appear. You have to just take the next indicated action and see, which is great. That's a very 12-step principle. It's very AA. They say, like, you can't think your way into right action, but you can act your way into right thinking. So you're not actually looking for answers. You're looking for awareness, and it comes as you continue to take next indicated actions. Okay, is there anything else on this, record keepers? No, but there is a kind of energy here that you might look at doing some healing work on, where it's kind of like it runs through your solar plexus into your second chakra down, and it's connected to the heart, that it has a kind of like, it's like a running motor, like an engine that's like, okay, let's go, let's do it, let's go, make a decision, know the thing, do the thing. It's a little bit of like patriarchy, toxic masculinity stuff. We love masculine energy, but we're just looking for divine masculine. Toxic masculine is the sort of like, have to know, have to do. So there's some energy healing work to do for you around melting that mechanism that has you function that way down and out and through you. And simultaneously, what you can do in the meantime is, when you catch yourself functioning from urgency is always a lie, unless your house is on fire, literally on fire. Or, once I learned this concept, that urgency is almost always a lie of the mind. And someone who says, like, write me back right now via email, it's actually, they don't need to hear back from you right now. They feel like they do because their small, wounded, injured ego or their afraid self is panicking. But if you just don't act, don't meet them there. Act from your soul alignment, as the last question suggested, meaning like peacefully, calmly, patiently, groundedly, trust that the house is actually not on fire. That person will calm down. Give it 24 hours and they'll calm down. You don't have to address it. Like, you don't send the next email the next day, like, I know you were all wound up about this, but blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do that. And what you want to do is just be that energy of spacious, patient, waiting, allowing, flowing. don't get into their house fire energy. Okay. I don't know what all that was, but there you go. Next, this is the one you're talking about, Cass. How can I create a more conscious connection with my soul? Okay, so record keepers, is there different information for on this question? No, not really, but there's something additional. I'm just going to sit with that for a second. She says, how can I create a more conscious connection with my soul? So it's ask those questions, as we mentioned before, function by the principles, soul type principles, which, by the way, a great recap of what those might be is look at the 12 traditions. Okay, those are great ones. But also, this is interesting. There's a kind of like, I don't know how to say this, but what they're showing me, like, if you imagine roots of a tree that are rooted down into the earth, right? And imagine that those roots have not received water for a long, long time. So they're kind of crusty and they're skinny and they're not very robust. And they're not green. They're kind of brown and tan and crusty and just not really lush. There is a little bit of an energy of that type running through your muscles and your cellular memory that the frequency of which doesn't match the frequency of your soul alignment. You know very well that your soul alignment is a very high vibrational field. It's very bright and quick and fluid. It's like pew, pew, laser beamy kind of, but also, yeah, laser beamy, big, wide laser beam of bright, white, bluish light, okay, through the Akashic records. So there is some energy healing that wants to happen whereby when you're sitting in the records, I would do it this way as you ask the record keepers or God or whoever that you tap into up there to clear, open, unlock, break apart, dissipate, and release all of that old crusty root energy that's in your muscles, fascia, blood, bones, and trust that they can and they will in the moment that you ask. Just sit there and let the energy healing happen. And then once that structure is broken apart within your physical form, you will have an easier time living as the soul aligned energy you tap into so easily when you're in the records. Boomski. You might need to listen to that again. We're moving on. Oh boy. What if, capital letters, the purpose of life and living is joy and laughter and celebration no matter what, and to be in allowance of it all with ease and gratitude? Are we actually in communion and oneness with everything and everyone, yet not acknowledging, seeing, being, and living this communion and oneness? Yes, is part of the answer. What if we did acknowledge it? How great would that be? Oh boy. Well, sure, that would be great, they say. That would be so great. Go ahead and teach people how to do that. You should teach them how to do that. Wouldn't that be nice? So they're talking. Let me just listen.
Is that, I hesitate to ask it this way, but
Sure.
Was that lightly sarcastic? Yeah. What do you take from that tone?
Well, I'm trying to, that's a good question. I'm asking the same thing. I'm kind of going like, oh, let me listen in and see what they mean. But yes, it was lightly sarcastic. It was like actively sarcastic. They're like, of course, be in bliss every minute. Of course. So what, is this even a question?
The answer is in the question.
Yeah, of course. The trick is, doll, how do you do that? And you say, like, what if we just acknowledged it? Well, you have to understand, most people don't have access to it. They don't even know how to begin to tap into that kind of energy. Yeah, and there's some other tricky stuff in this conversation that I'm not going to get into right now because I'm just not going to do it. There's an energy force and field that you're tapped into that is not for everybody, that they have to find it a different way. They have to find it a different way. And your way, the way you're doing a lot of this is not available to them. So they have to find their way to that. So in one sense, you're kind of asking, why isn't everybody doing their spiritual work? And it's a great question. The answer is not everybody wants to be happy. Not everybody's invested in growing. Not everybody wants to be conscious. People are not really looking to wake up. A lot of them are. So the ones who are will do what they do to find that levity, hopefully. And the ones who aren't won't. And the last piece here is that there's a little bit of a something missing here there's an unintegrated aspect to this question a little bit. There's a way that you're almost saying like, what if we just acknowledge laughter and bliss every second? That's where the sarcasm tone comes from, is like, that's not very human. So you have to decide, are you interested in being a human being or not? And it's okay if you're not. It's just that for human beings, there's an important element, which is called like integration into the human emotional realm, which means sometimes you're going to be sad, mad, angry, cranky, up, down, sleepy, moody, horny, etc. So what if the purpose of life and living is joy and laughter and celebration no matter what? Well, except for when it's grief and pain and sorrow. And to be an allowance of all of it, absolutely. People need a spiritual path to figure out how to do that, or an emotional path of healing. Are we actually in communion? Yes, and not acknowledging seeing, being, living. It's not just that we're not acknowledging seeing, being, living this communion. It's that we don't know as human beings how to tap into that. So people have to have tools and things to help them get there. Okay, we're moving on. Oh boy, already the first 5 words, I'm like, what? How might we transcend thought forms and differentiate if we are part of a program? If I become a heart navigator, what is the point of mind? Oh, okay. Other than a grand cosmic joke. That's fun. Okay, let me just listen. So lords, masters, and teachers, I'm going to really give this to you. How might we transcend thought forms and differentiate if we are part of a program? I don't think I understand that question. They're saying also you're not part of a program, but how to transcend thought forms is a great question, and you're already doing it. You know how to transcend thought forms. You're doing it. Your Kundalini stuff and all the things you do is doing it. So you know how to transcend thought forms. I'm wondering if you're asking for the collective, like how are we going to get them to transcend thought forms? Well, how are we going to get the collective to transcend? No, we're not even going to go there. Okay, so you already are, and you know how, and the choice is live from your heart, live from your spirit, live from your essence, function from love and service and community and connection, which you already do. And then every time your mind grabs a hold of the microphone, more like the wheel, what's that song? Jesus, take the steering wheel, or whatever. In your case, it's like, let your heart take the steering wheel. And when your mind grabs it, like, come back to your heart and practice your spiritual stuff that brings you back to your heart. That's just a commitment you have to make to yourself, that you will always come back and come back and come back. Now, here's more though. The next piece is keep moving forward on your spiritual path, because eventually there will be the full disillusionment, dissolving of all thought forms. And at that point, when that occurs, any thought form that arises or passes through your mind, you will have the option to recognize it as an awareness of someone else's thought form. In other words, it won't be your thought forms. It'll just be thought forms that are occurring that you won't have to attach to. Really, I'm getting a lot of that Kundalini energy with you right now, and also your soul's alignment with a star nation, with like star beings from the star nation. The more you tap into them, and I think you know how, and the more you do the Kundalini work in an integrated way, meaning allowing your feelings to be real and not dissociating away from them, the less power your thought forms will have over you in particular. And they're all going to dissolve eventually. And then you just have to make a choice once they're all gone. Oh, I'm not going to even deal with them, whatever versions of them arise. Okay, second part. If I become a heart navigator, what is the point of mind other than a grand cosmic joke? Well, the mind is meant to be, this is like whoosh, like a whoosh energy. They're like, the mind is meant to be a small computer that makes the functioning as a heart soul warrior easier. It's sort of like, I'm out here being a heart warrior. Now I'm going to use my mind to do the math to add up the numbers of how much I have to charge each person to come to my heart warrior workshop. In other words, the mind is just supposed to be this little computer that we use to serve the heart and to serve the soul and to serve God. But instead we have it backwards, where we're like dragging our heart and soul behind our mind and letting the mind choose. So when you say, if I become a heart navigator, what is the point of mind? Just employ the mind when you need it to serve the heart. So it's going to have little tiny jobs. Make sure we have enough gas in the car before we get on the road trip. Measure the amount of protein in my meal so that I can be healthy. Little jobs. just little jobs to allow your heart to do what it's doing. That's the point of the mind. We just have it backwards. That's why it feels like a grand cosmic joke, is because the joke is, oh, you thought the mind was the boss, but you know better. You know the mind is not the boss. So now that you know that, just use it in service of your heart and all is well. Namaste, moving on.
Can I just jump in and say that I would love to do the Gmail question, which started this, just in case we run out of time, that started this whole idea of doing 10.
Sure. Can you read it?
Yes.
Okay.
It is from 2 questions. 1, why haven't any alien races revealed themselves to us at large? Did they all kill themselves, or are they avoiding us because we're still so dangerous? Do you want to address that, or do you want both questions?
Yeah, let me stay with that one for a second. All right. First of all, okay. Just making sure I'm just really listening and receiving. You know better than most people that they have revealed themselves, just not in the way you see in TV movies. They don't show up like, oh, here we are with our green heads and our weird fingers. Brr, 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 take me to your leader. It's not going to go down like that, because not everybody can or wants to receive them. You can't just like, let me think of an example. What's an example that you guys want to give? Okay. If monsters came down from the sky, which that's how people would experience it. Monsters from the sky, and then all hell breaks loose. So human beings are not ready for that. It's not that they've killed themselves, or this question is it's missing a few things. So let's just clarify a few things. This thing we call aliens, it's beings that live in a different dimensional reality than we live in, oftentimes. So we can't see them the way we see each other. We can't feel them the way I feel my dog on my lap right now as she licks my armpit. We can't, they're not going to show up in 3D reality the way you expect, okay? Because they exist on a different dimensional plane. So you know how you have an ability to tap into the Arcturian energy? Okay, that's you tapping into aliens. Aliens are just beings that live in a different place or a different realm or a different planet or a different dimension than us. So they're revealing themselves to me and to the psychics and the woo-woo people of the world. I say that with all due respect. The term woo-woo, I use it lovingly and affectionately all the time. Every time I see a client, which is several times a day, I'm dealing with some aliens sometimes and some demons and entities and all kinds of crazy shit. So they're revealed to those of us who want to see them. Most of humanity finds that idea way too weird and too crazy, and they're not open to it. So it's sort of like saying, why don't you walk over to your neighbor's house in a bikini at noon on a Tuesday? Because that would freak your neighbors out. Why would you walk over to your neighbor's house in a bikini at noon on a Tuesday? Why would you do that? Except to freak them out. So do you want the aliens to just show up and make everybody go, what the fuck? And then chaos ensues and everybody kills each other. Because that's how human beings at this point in their consciousness would react. Now, those of us who can receive it get to experience it. And it's pretty fucking cool, isn't it? I think you would say yes. Namaste. What was the next question from her?
It increasingly looks like electoral politics on their own don't deliver the goods. What are the tools we're missing? Why do we always seem to be on the cusp of doing better, but we never really do?
Oh, God. What are we missing? So many things. Can we answer this? I get that we can't go here right now.
It's a whole episode,
It's
possibly.
a whole episode, I think. Let's come back to that another day, if that's okay. I mean, somehow it feels off topic. I can't explain that. I don't know why. It might be that, because see, for me, I actually didn't have that question included in this.
Right. It wasn't we didn't open those records. She wasn't included in the record opening. I
mean, I can hear the guidance for her. It's sort of off topic. So we'll come back to that. Let's put a pin in that. Thank you for those. Those are good. Okay. I'm going to just look at this list here. So what is healthy fear? Oh, that's a great question. And what's the best way I can distinguish it from the other kind? So I can use it and ditch the other to love more fully. Oh, Squeezle, the dog needs so much attention today. What is healthy fear? And what's the best way I can distinguish it from the other kind so I can use it and ditch the other to love more fully? Okay, let me just listen. Okay, Lords, Masters, and Teachers of the Akashic Records for this group, God itself. What words would you say about this for her? All right. You have some trauma that means that you are walking around carrying the vibrational resonance of fear through your nervous system sort of all the time. It's sort of like a panicky, like that. I'm just imitating what I'm feeling inside as I tap into this with you, not to make fun of it, but just to acknowledge it for what it is. Okay. This is something that requires integration and healing. So this is where I'd say, like, get a healing session and or acknowledge this in some kind of somatic therapeutic context. And you've got to work actively with the fear that runs through your nervous system from the traumas of your childhood. There's a way that I feel, as I look at it here, it's like you have gotten some great tools for how to manage your fear. And you've gotten a lot of great tools for how to like be a functioning person in the world, despite this fear I have. But now is the time, if you choose it, to heal the fear, to really pull that resonance out of your body. I would like, we would all like to give you an answer to this question. The problem is it will feel theoretical and it will be another mental management tool until and only when you face the vibrational frequency of terror. It's actually terror in your nervous system, and have an energy healer pull it out for you or integrate it for you or work with it in some other somatic therapeutic context. Because until you remove it, you won't even be able to feel in your body the difference between the two kinds of fears that you're talking about. This is an excellent question in general because humanity is wondering this a lot right now. What is healthy fear and what isn't? And what we would offer on that topic is for the general population and for you, with the caveat that you need to do that energy work first to really internalize this, is that rather than saying healthy fear, what if you frame it like highly attuned awareness? In other words, you can walk into, let's say, a concert hall or I'm seeing a stadium. You go to see a baseball game at a stadium, right? And you walk in and there's a lot of people. You can kind of turn your spidey senses on, expand your energy field a little bit, look around and be aware. Is a scary man following me? Is my wallet safe? Like, you can scan an environment and be acutely aware without having to call it fear and without having to be afraid. You don't actually have to be afraid. You need to be aware. So what humans do is during crises, which of course globally humans are experiencing this time as a crisis, understandably, correctly, appropriately. Okay. So people's spidey senses are heightened. They're like, what the fuck, like a cheetah in the forest. Like, I'm fucking awake now. What the fuck is happening? But they turn that into fear. So the choice you must make is be with your nervous system, tune into what's happening, check in, listen to just enough news to get the information you need, and then turn the fucking news off, by the way. That'll help you a lot. Barely listen at all. You don't need as much info as you think you do. Okay. You don't need anywhere near as much as you're right now. Like, well, I got to make sure that I got to hyper-vigilant panic and hyper-vigilant attention to details is coming from that terror energy that runs through your midline that we talked about. Instead, just be aware, but don't let, when your nervous system starts to turn that into fear, make the choice not to go there. But for you, like we said at the beginning, you're going to need to do some work before you can make that choice. Always going to turn to fear quickly for you because of what you're carrying. For everyone else, not everyone else. For a lot of other people listening, consciously choose to be aware without moving it into the fear realm. Okay. It says, is it more a matter of rediscovering who we are, record keepers, God, or more so actively creating who we will become? That's nice. Is it more a matter of rediscovering? Is what more a matter of rediscovering who we are, or more so actively creating who we will become? All right, there's some layers here. So it's sort of like they're saying, like, both are kind of true. And I have to remove this dog from my shoulders now. You're very cute, but you're distracting me. I know, Sally, I'm trying to listen to like high vibe beings here. She's like, I'm a high vibe being. Okay. Is it more a matter of rediscovering who we are? There is some truth in that. We are rediscovering who we are, or more so actively creating who we will become. They're saying yes and to this, okay? It's a brighter energy on when you say who actively creating who we will become, that's a brighter energy, meaning please focus on that a lot. Who would you like to become? Be that. Practice that. Align with those energies. And your inner child, okay, using psychology language, was always lovable and whole and perfect in her essence. But then things happened to each of us human beings on this planet that mean you forgot who you were on the emotional, connected to your inner child level. So some people have to heal certain things within themselves to remember the innocence of their own inner child, for example, the perfection of the imperfection of their humanity, for example. These are things you need to remember. Oh, it's okay to have feelings and to be vulnerable and to ask your beloved partner in life to like love you in that vulnerable place. That's what we have to rediscover, that we lost along the human journey. Simultaneously, we are actively creating who we will become. That is also true. And it's very exciting. It has a really bright, exciting energy on it. Oh, I can't wait to become, successful and happy and live on the water and be a positive lady and be a light. You're like a little spark of light. You're like a firecracker. You're like a firecracker. And you want to be more of that. And it's like, yes, please be more of that. They say, yes, be more. And remember that you were always a good little girl. And there was never anything wrong with your little girl. She just got hurt and shut down because adults are imperfect and they did an imperfect job of raising you, like most adults do with all human babies. So both. Okay, I think we're complete there. Is there more to say there? Yes? Okay, I mean, just listen. When you remember that you are whole in your feeling sense, when you remember you being all of human beings, when you all remember that your inner child is not bad and wrong, she or he is actually quite wonderful, and that you're allowed to be with the vulnerability that she's constantly trying to express through you, that actually, wow, this is so useful. Thank you for this question. It's giving me awareness too. That actually allows the alignment with who you're becoming to be rooted in a high functioning foundation. In other words, when the inner child is not cared for correctly inside of you, when you're not being an excellent parent to your inner child by like nurturing the baby. I have a spiritual teacher who says like half of what we're doing as human beings is just taking care of the baby. And the baby is inside of you. So you got to take care of that baby. But the patriarchy and the like weird rhythm of America or whatever country you're in, and the culture, society says like, go fast and do things and hide that and don't feel that and don't nurture that. There's no time. Hurry up, drink coffee, fuck people, win, whatever its messages it's sending. So then we all dissociate away from the baby and don't take care of him, her. So as you become an excellent parent to this inner child, and every time she cries or asks for your attention, down in your low belly, by the way, this is down in the feelings in the low belly, you create within yourself a more integrated, holistic, balanced platform from which the person you're becoming, when you talk about creating who we will become, from which that person can function. If you just focus on who are we becoming, it's all possibility, every infinite possible, everything's possible. Who are we becoming? You lose contact with your little child because she's sort of like, well, while you're becoming stuff, could I have some milk? She's like, could I take a nap? Do you see? So it's about honoring both. And the honoring of the who we are creates a healthy, integrated, functioning platform from which who we will become can thrive. Okay, is that it? Yes. Okay, that was really beautiful. Thank you for that question. I've had that same question myself of like, yeah, I hope that touches it. And if you want more, I feel like you might have more to ask on this in a different way than we responded here. Please type it in, send it to us, allanswerspod@gmail.com, right, Cassidy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
Please send more if you have more on that. How can my foot be fully recovered again? And now for
Good
something
simple one.
Totally different. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is a fun workout over here. When you're like training at the gym with someone who trains you to do like multiple things at once, when it's like, okay, squats and lift, and now lunges and punch. you know, versus like a trainer who you work with who's like, cool, we're just going to do squats. Okay, do squats.
Theoretically, what you're describing sounds like a thing that exists.
And you're like, I don't work out. What are you talking about? Good times. This is how that feels. It's fun. It's dynamic. I'm not bored. It's great. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be our longest episode ever, and that's great. Let them listen.
Well, so far we're just at 2 hours and 5 minutes. I feel like we've had a couple that were 2 hours.
Sure.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe right. Okay. I wish I knew more about what happened with your foot. Is it broken? Not really. All right, record keepers, what do you got? Because I don't know anything about anything here. How can her foot be fully recovered again? Well, that's interesting. This is wackadoo. What a surprise. I see like the foot needs active manipulation, like a cracking, like a chiropractic adjustment to the foot. Does it need to be broken? No, it just needs to be adjusted. Well, here's what I get. It needs like a chiropractic adjustment, your foot, but in a kind of a big way. And it needs to be done by, I see that you've already had work done on it. People have been you've been having work done or something, and they're telling you to do X, Y, Z, stay off of it or ice it or whatever they're telling you. When you're ready, and this isn't going to be too painful, there's got to be a very specific individual who can like get their thumb in there on the top and go, ka-ka-ka, and like reset the thing. I was wondering, because they're showing it to me like that, like, does it need to be broken? But they say no. Okay. The key here is finding the right person. And it reminds me, they're showing me of a time where I had a back injury for a bunch of years in my 20s and early 30s that I traveled up and down this fucking state looking for somebody. I mean, I worked with acupuncturists and woo-woo people and chiropractors and physical therapists and all kinds of people trying to help me with this back thing. Acupuncture, so much acupuncture didn't help me. I found an osteopath who, I don't even really know what that is, but they deal with like muscle, fascia, and bone, I believe. And this guy pushed on 2 little spots in my back and my whole back went realigned and was fixed. And I'm telling you, I was on a relentless hunt to fix my back because I was in pain all the time. This guy did it in 4 minutes. And I think I had like 3 sessions with him just to like make sure everything was setting correctly and get it all working well. Then he fucking retired. Like I was sending people, I was in Sufi school at the time. And I remember anytime anybody would be like, oh, my back is all fucked up, I'd be like, I have the guy. And I sent all these people to him. And he also think he did supplements too. Anyway, then he retired and it was a real bummer. So you need a wizard with muscle, fascia, and bone. And actually, I think you could use an osteopath in particular. So look up osteopaths. And when you meet them, use your psychic spidey sense to determine if this is the person. When you walk in the office, be like, is this the dude? And you'll know. Okay, there you go. The end.
I had a similar one where a miracle worker who I didn't even like personally. That was the interesting part. Like he was kind of a jerk, but I was like, nope, I get it. You're right. I don't like my spiritual alignment was agreed with him, even though my personal reaction to him was like, no. So that was interesting.
That is interesting.
But he saved my life, you know.
What was
with one adjustment? It's one that's recurring now, like 5 years later, as we speak. Right now, I'm suffering from it. It's a neck shoulder fascia thing, and it's a similar thing. Where he went, oh yeah, I see. One thing.
Wow.
What the hell? I mean, I walked out of the appointment and then just started weeping, not because it hurt, but because I was different. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's that kind of a thing that I think you're talking about, where like all the other things were fine. The chiropractor was fine. This was okay. This helped a little.
Yeah.
And then you cross paths with the person who is the right person for that particular situation.
100%.
So I just want to second that just on a practical level.
Sure.
Sounds like you're being guided towards someone like this.
Someone in particular. And
I might even email this person to our question person to check out.
That's great. She would love that.
You know, I don't want to do it like a public commercial. That's weird.
I just have to tell you, she's in like China or something.
Oh, okay. This person's in Sacramento, so
yeah,
that's not going to help.
Maybe we send it anyway, because who knows? Maybe she takes a trip to Sacramento.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we to decide?
Exactly. We don't speak for Desmond. That phrase is gonna now mean we don't make other people's decisions for them.
That's my life lesson right there. Working on that one every day.
I love you. You're one of my favorite people, Cassidy.
I love you too so much. I needed to hear that though. That's good. I needed to hear that, right? Thank you for telling me that.
Oh, I do. I love you dearly. Almost as much as I love this little dog right here.
I know that little dog. It's crazy. We have two more very similar ones.
We got this. Here we go. Wants to know, dearest divine universe, what is my highest calling that wish me to serve you?
I feel like that's internet typing problem.
Oh, I love grammar errors. They're my favorite. It just makes me laugh. Like language, like we were talking about before, it's so dumb. And then when we do an extra dumb thing with it, it's just so entertaining to me. What calling wish me serve you do? Like, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And that is not a judgment. That is just fun with words. What is my highest calling probably that you wish me to serve you? Okay. Let me see if I can get that. Ooh, a lot of times when people ask this question, there's so much with it that it's an hour. But let's see. Do you mean work-wise? She does mean work-wise, like calling, work, doing. Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to tease through out loud what I'm getting and see if sometimes I have to out loudy it. So it's like, I know a little bit about life. So it's like, is it acting? No. Is it energy stuff? No. Is it? And then I go, is it teaching? And that's like really good, but there's something else. Is it teaching? Is it to do with teaching? Is it, it's sparkly. There's real sparkly energy here. Your alignment is very sparkly. It's nice. It's like little effervescent sparkles lining up with the source of all that sparkles. I'm sitting with this. Okay, number one, you have to be this sparkly energy. Be the light of joy in the world. Remember the joy that you had when you were young and you were so bubbly and dancy. You were like dancy and bubbly and effervescent. Remember that? That's who you're meant to be, first of all, in terms of being. You can get a little fucking serious sometimes, is what they're saying. You can get real like serious. And we understand where that comes from. There is a piece of you that is quite deep and quite deep, emotionally deep, connected to a very deep well. Good. Now, just don't let the deep well kill the light of effervescence that you have the capacity to be. It's sort of like they're like, we miss when you were more joyful. Remember when you were joyful and dancing around? Do you dance? And if you don't, they're like, could you start dancing like in a class or something? Take a dance class, go dancing, 5 rhythms or ballet or something. I can't wait to hear later. She's like, I was a ballerina for 20 years. How did you know? I hope. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing that in the future. So dance more, have more fun, be the effervescent, bubbly, creative. Are you a choreographer? Choreographer that you are. Can you choreograph more? That's what it is. Okay. So sometimes I have to trickle it out. Remember they were saying teacher, but then it was like kind of. All right, well, if you do anything like choreography, that's where you're going to feel most aligned because you get to create, be creative. You get to lead and be in charge because you must be in charge. Stop judging yourself for wanting to be in charge. You're like, oh, I'm so controlling. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be a little controlling as a choreographer. You know, don't be a dick about it, but you already know that. They're like, calm down, love yourself, be controlling. Okay, so you get to be creative, you get to be in charge, and you get to teach. And it all comes from you. Wow, that was cool. That was cool for me. Go ahead.
I just did background research while you were doing that, if you'd like to know.
Yeah.
This person is a movement teacher for the actor at such and such theater, choreographer at such and such theater, actor, choreographer at such and such theater.
Oh my God.
Movement teacher at such and such theater.
Okay, I swear to God, I know we've done some readings together. I had no idea she did choreography at all. I swear to Christ, Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, and all the apostles. I did not know that. But they love that for you, choreography. Wow. Thank you for the question. So I got to have that experience of how they trickle in information. They drop in a little piece, and then it's like, oh, it all comes together in a picture. Wow. That was so cool. Thank you for looking that up, Cassidy.
Yeah.
All right. Some people won't believe it. They'll be like, yeah, you knew
No.
her. That's okay.
They'll think that I was like in your ear going, and she's a choreographer.
Oh,
I
right.
found her as a choreographer, and she is okay.
I am tickled by
She
that.
used to have a cat named Larry that died. So maybe you could see the cat.
I'm seeing something furry and small.
Well, what's funny is I'm not doing that, but that is what's happening.
Doing what?
You're getting.
Oh, right.
In a sense, you're getting a little voice in your earpiece that's going,
That's
okay,
right.
and
That's
she's a
really true.
choreographer.
The universe is whispering in my ears. God, I did not know you did that. I didn't know you did choreography. I'm sorry for being not up to date on your life. All right, we're going to move on for time. I'm so sorry.
One last one. That's
one
it.
Last one. Vicky Rinne. Dear God, can I see you? Dear God, it's me, Vicky. Remember that book? It's me, Margaret. Yep. Okay. Can I see you? Dear God, can I see you? All right. I think you don't mean literally with your eyes. She means like, I'd like to know God, actually. So what's it going to take to see God, to know God? No. Okay. Again, it's just trickling in bit by bit. So spiritual practice is a part of it. Heart work, nope. Emotional, yes. Okay, you're quite facile with emotional, like having your feelings now. You've worked on that. You still can get a little heady about it. They want you to have a spiritual practice. This is dropping in. It's taking a second. Can you know God? Yes, of course. Everyone can. So they're saying they need you to apply more effort toward aligning with the energy of God and let go of your mental ideas about what God is or is not. There's a lot of mental ideas for you. You need an energetic experience of the divine that is more direct, and you're not going to get it through the places you've been going. You've got to go somewhere new. So it's almost like you need darshan. Darshan is where you sit with a guru or a spiritual teacher who has a like super high vibe connection to God, and they touch you, they put their hands on you, or they transmit energy at you. It's like what I've described with Cassidy in the Sufi school or whatever. You need someone to give you some darshan, to just vibe you up a little, to get you tapped into some kind of lineage or alignment of spiritual connection. Because right now you've got like some concepts and you do some prayers and you say some words and you're sincerely trying. You pray and you connect and you sit and you try, but it's time to go to the next level of what it is to be with God. You have to go to the next level of it. Yeah, okay. And you're going to have to break through some of your judgments of normalcy. You like to fit in and be appropriate and normal. And you're just like a lovely, normal lady. And you kind of just are that. And when we say normal, I don't mean it pejoratively. I mean it like you're very good at like be kind to people, be with people, play the rules. And now they're like, cool. So are you willing to break the rules? You're going to have to break the rules of everything you think reality is made of. Sorry. In order to know God. Because see, the structures you're functioning from are limited, mental, and social. You worship the God of society, not in you're just a sheep and you're blinded to everything kind of way, but you've done a really good job on the work you've been doing with yourself to get better at being with people and being good and being good. Now you gotta fucking rebel against that a little bit. Open into the light. The light is like a fucking fountain. It's a fire hose it's a fire hose through your asshole, up through the middle of you, phew, out the top of your head. It's sexy, it's fucking intense, and it's not rational, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to people. Like you need to like go to a Buddhist temple or something and like sit with a guy who's like super fucking tapped in and have him give you some darshan. Look up what the word darshan is. I have a feeling that you can find whoever's going to be your darshan giver is nearby. They're nearby. Does she need to travel to go find them? Not at all. They're nearby. But you gotta obliterate the mind and let the light of God blow through the middle of you like a fire hose. So you've got to be willing to find something totally new and let it destroy you from the inside out. I know that sounds scary. And I know there's a very tender part of you that's like, but I already did a lot of dying. And I thought didn't I already? And we're like, yeah, you did already. Now there's more, because now your soul is saying, all right, I fixed I plugged the main leaks in the system here. I'm not a dick. I know how to be loving. I'm good girl at my job, good girl with my family, good girl with my nutrition, good girl. Now, how do I know God? And God's going, I'm a river of light. So there's nothing predictable here. Are you ready to sit your ass on a fire hose? That's how it's going to be. Oh boy. I love it when they're just so gentle and nurturing like that. Is there anything else? No. Okay, so look for some darshan, look up what that means, find someone local, and let it open your heart and let it destroy you. And by destroy you, I don't mean, oh, it's going to be terrible and your life falls apart. It's not the old kind of destruction you're used to. It's the destruction of the remaining societal egoic structures within you. Okay, for the sake of time and the listener, we're done.
Woo!
Let's high five on the camera. We did it. Okay, that was a lot, you guys. We did it.
Do we know how many we did?
All right, well, let me formally count, and I'm going to close these records up. So thank you, record keepers, Divine Mother, all that is, for all this group of people who wrote posts in on the Facebook wall of me. I ask that you return all their energy back to them now. Send all their energy back to them now. Return any of us and all of us to our complete human wholeness now. The divine portal and the records for this group of people on my Facebook wall who posted questions are closed. Amen. The divine portal and the records for this group of people are closed. The divine portal and the records for this group of people are closed. Amen, amen, amen. Excellent. Okay.
We answered 12. We were given 13.
Wow.
There's something powerful about that because 13 is an intense number, and maybe we weren't supposed to do 13.
And the 12 steps.
Interesting.
I didn't know. And the 12 apostles.
Yeah. And the 13th apostle is why it's a bad word. It's my favorite number, frankly, though. I love 13. I'm really glad that 13 came into any part of it, even though we didn't answer the 13th because they were like, yeah, not right now.
What,
That was the electoral one. And this is episode 13.
Desmond just showed us an image that said, this is episode 13. What the fuck?
Yeah. Love it. We are in sync with the world.
Wow. That blew my mind a little bit.
Yes. We should get into synchromysticism a little bit at some point.
Ooh.
I'll do some research. I don't really know what I'm talking about.
I can't
My friend
wait.
is really into it.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Maybe we'll bring him on. That'll be wackadoo to get him on because he's wackadoo wonderful.
Yes, let's get him on, whoever he is.
All right.
I love you guys.
But just the idea of synchromysticism.
I know. What a fucking great term. All right. I need to go stand in nature or something because I am woo-wooed out.
Katie,
yeah.
Thank you for being amazing and bringing the thunder today. You did a marathon.
Thank you guys for wading through it and being patient. I love and appreciate you so much. And thanks to the listeners for sticking it out. If you made it this far, you're a fucking ninja, is what you are.
Yes. Aren't you all badasses?
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you
hit
soon.
us up on Gmail. You know, we already said.
Yeah. What is it again? All answers pod.
answerspod@gmail.com, and always include ways to contact you and whether we can use your name on the air and all that stuff.
I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.